Sir, I was hearing one of your closed-door interviews in which you'd also said, your interaction with the Forge, where you said you cannot be a strong nation on borrowed weapons, and you cannot win wars with borrowed weapons. What's your thinking on Atmanirbhar Bharat? But first, elaborate on this, sir, and then on Atmanirbhar Bharat should also be there, but operational efficiency of the armed forces should not be adversely impacted. Where do you stand on that? How do we achieve that goal?
Okay, I'll take it in a reverse manner. I'll speak about Atmanirbharta first. Sometimes we are looking at Atmanirbharta from a narrow prism of defense manufacturing only. I think Atmanirbharta is slightly more than that. Self-reliance and Atmanirbharta, both these words actually start with self, Atman. Looking at yourself, अपने आप में देखने है, जरूरी है ये. And that will lead to self-realization and self-actualization. And that self-confidence which you will get after that. So it has a broader kind of an ambit. Defense manufacturing is a smaller part of it. So as I said, what you quoted actually, that we can't actually win future wars on borrowed technology and borrowed weapon systems. What actually I meant was, we are trying to chase technologies and weapon systems which already exist. I'm saying again, we are trying to develop a system or maybe a hypersonic missile or a particular ship or a missile which we want, which already exists. People have developed, and then the DRDO, etc., are trying to chase it. Then we will induct it into the armed forces, or change our tactics, adopt a tactics to incorporate that system, and thereafter we'll change an organization. If we continue this process, we'll always be behind that curve. We'll never reach ahead. So what I have been trying to propagate for some time now is that a tactics-led kind of a thought process of development in which we decide as to how we want to fight the future war. And that is absolutely unique to our circumstances, our methods of fighting a war, which is based on our kind of a terrain, our realities, our adversaries. And once we decide that, then we look at supporting technologies and weapon systems which will fructify that particular tactics. And when we do that, then we beat that curve which I said you and come up ahead along with the developed nations. So we'll have to, for doing all this actually, there'll be a lot of mindset change which we will require. So that's the focus and emphasis would be.
And when we talk of future wars, we're looking at what's happening around us in the world. A Russia-Ukraine war, which was seen as a short, sharp special operation, has been on for 2 years. Is that our lessons learned from there, or the Israel-Hamas kind of a situation where hundreds of terrorists enter a country and carry out the kind of mayhem that the Hamas did in Israel? What is the lessons learned from there and the threat that we face in our neighborhood?
Every war will produce its own lessons. And we can't extrapolate or assume that these kind of wars will be fought in our context. I think each war, the way it will be fought, is first defined by the politico-military objectives which has been set for that particular war. That is one. And of course, technology would be the second thing. Geography would be another factor, where this war is being fought, the climate, geography, etc. All this will define the uniqueness of that particular war or kind of a conflict. So like in the Ukraine war, if geopolitical objective or politico-military objective was to retain amount of territory, the lesson is that, if you retain territory, there's going to be a very prolonged war. So that's a big lesson actually for us. And high-tech, surveillance systems, etc., are not a solution for actually keeping boots on ground as far as surveillance of your borders or dominance of your borders are concerned. I think these are two big lessons for us. But as I said, our scenarios, our wars, which we think would be based on our geography, our threats, and our adversaries, and it will be entirely different from what the wars which you just mentioned.
Sir, since you mentioned boots on ground, that would mean we would need soldiers to protect our borders or achieve our aims. Of late, there has been tremendous criticism, General, of the Agniveers, where some people argue, some have argued that they are not as capable or will not be as capable as long-term soldiers. And by the time they're trained, vis-a-vis deployment at the LAC, they'll be, perhaps they'll not as good as the Chinese soldiers. That is being argued. Where do you stand? Because you train soldiers, you guide soldiers, you use soldiers in combat. Where do you stand on Agniveers?
Again, I think means that's a view which I have also read, against Agniveer. Who is going to use these Agniveers? It's a commanding officer. People who are on field, actually. Is there any, dissonance among them? No. See, these guys are quite happy because ultimately a commanding officer who is at the cutting edge of combat, he gets to choose what kind of people he wants actually in his unit. What could be better than that? So people who are going to use this, the Agniveers have no problem. The people who are going to use or work with these Agniveers, who will be part of the team to fight a war or a combat situation or operationally get deployed, they have no issues. The larger issues are from outside, actually. Some of them are from our own veterans, actually. So I won't talk about others, veterans, because times have changed, but sometimes you get stagnated and you think about a particular thing. So I think you have to have a fresh kind of a look. This is a very transformative kind of a scheme, and this is not only for the armed forces, but it's going to strengthen the nation, actually, I presume, in times to come. And that's the way I look at it. And it's working out well. We've had no issues till now. Two batches are already there on training. The first batch means in 27, actually, probably would come out. And there's a lot of time for us to look at if there are any shortcomings in this scheme. But as of now, I think people who are using this have taken a feedback from the soldiers who are there as Agniveers. We've taken up a feedback from the commanding officers who find them absolutely fine. So I don't think there's a problem on those two accounts. It also has a major advantage if I look at it strategically. Just mentioned about a long duration war or a Ukraine kind of a war. We earlier had the system of reservist liability. With this scheme, there's not going to be a reservist liability. Earlier people, if he retired, say, a soldier after 17 years, he's a 2 or 3 years of reserve liability he had. So that system didn't work out well, actually. We've not been able to use it or test it, actually, after 71. In this, by a simple notification, I can increase the terms of engagement to 5 years. I have 50,000 soldiers extra for that particular year. What better this thing? In times of national emergency. Otherwise, we continue like this. I think it's a very good scheme.